Hey guys, today we're going to look through our next little section, which is all about experimental design. And so once again, I am going to just walk through the textbook because that's where I took all of these notes from. So if you get stuck or need extra help with those vocab words, that's the place to look. Come on, why is this not working? Some days technology is not on our side. There we go. Okay, so the first thing we're looking at is a controlled experiment. So a controlled experiment is where an experiment is where I'm actually doing something. So I'm changing something. And this controlled experiment means I'm really having two groups where I'm going to be placing people or things or items, okay, with really identical situations except for one thing. And that one thing is the thing I'm going to be testing. Okay, so the control group is the group that has ordinary conditions. Well, now it's not writing at all. I broke it. Great, so my control group is the group that has ordinary conditions, meaning I really haven't changed anything. They may think I've changed something, but I haven't actually changed anything. Then the treatment group, which is this group over here, the treatment group is where I've actually changed something and we're trying to see if it's going to work. Why will that work? I don't know what's going on with my computer. So I'm just going to talk you through this. So the treatment group is the one that I'm actually changing something for. Okay, so then randomization, that's our next real word that we're looking at. So randomization is where I randomly assign subjects to either the control group or the treatment group. So that's a really key important part because I can't assign people to a group based on any key factor or anything else. I have to be very random about it, or else it's not a real great experiment. Okay, also in your book, you'll see there's this word, and we're going to look at it in just a second, this randomized comparative experiment. So if I don't randomize my people into either the control group or the treatment group, it's not considered a randomized comparative experiment, which means the results are probably really not all that valid. Okay, so the next one is placebo, and you've probably seen placebo before. Placebo is kind of a fake treatment. Okay, so in a lot of treatments, we see a lot of these medical studies, we're giving people a pill to try and see the effects of this pill. So we want both groups, both the control group and the treatment group, to think that they're getting this, whether or not they know. And so sometimes we'll give them a placebo, which is just a fake, harmless, unmedicated treatment that mimics the actual treatment. So that can also help us eliminate other pieces of our experiment. Okay, so here's that first example. So evaluating published reports. So in this first one, at a health clinic, patients were given the choice of whether to take a dietary supplement of 500 milligrams of vitamin C each day. 50 patients who took the supplement were monitored for a year, as were 50 who did not take the supplement. At the end of 1 year, patients who took the supplement had a 15% lower cholesterol levels than the patients in the other group. So the first thing we need to notice is that this is not actually a randomized experiment. People were able to choose whether they wanted to take the pill or not. That could also lead to other factors. We don't know what else is going on or why they may have chosen it or may not have chosen it, so that would not really be valid results. Okay, so let's look at this second one. To test the new design of a self-checkout, a grocer gathered 142 customers and randomly divided them into two groups. One group used the new self-checkout and one group used the old self-checkout. Users of the new self-checkout were able to complete their purchases 16% faster. So since that is a place where we've randomly put people into two groups, that experiment would actually be valid and we would look at those kind of results. Okay. So now we're going to look at how we can do some of these randomizing things. So when we're looking at an experiment, right? So an experiment is where we change something. So in an experiment, it's fairly simple to randomize. So you can just assign some of your people randomly, right, using a random number generator or some other way to actually get random values into the treatment group and some into the not treatment group, into our control group. So when we're doing an observational study, we also want to kind of follow those randomizing events too. We want to try and randomize the people that we observe or the things that we observe as much as possible to get the most valid data that we can. So here we're looking, this one is example number 2, I think. Nope. Never mind. This is example 3 that I just found in our book. So here we're looking at analyzing this experimental design, okay? So if this is a valid experimental design and if it's going to be valid data, it means we should be able to replicate it, right? So replication is required for this to be a really valid experimental design, meaning somebody else can take the setup of our experiment that we've done and apply it to a different group of randomized people or a different set of circumstances, okay? So that's really important. So a pharmaceutical company wants to test the effectiveness of a new chewing gum designed to help people lose weight. Identify a potential problem with each experimental design and then describe how you could fix it. So the first one is, the company identifies 10 people who are overweight. 5 are given the new chewing gum and the other 5 are given a placebo. After 3 months, each subject is evaluated and it is determined that the 5 subjects who've been using the new chewing gum have lost weight. So one thing that I noticed that would make this less valid is 10 people is not a very large sample size. So that would be kind of my problem here with this experimental design, is that my sample size was much too small. So in order to fix that or make it better, I would just really greatly increase the number of people in my subjects or the number of people in my groups. Okay, for the second part, the company identifies 10,000 people who are overweight. So that first problem has already been fixed because that's a really large number of people, of subjects. So the subjects are divided into groups according to gender. Females receive the new chewing gum and males receive the placebo. After 3 months, a significantly large number of the female subjects have lost weight. So remember that if we're doing this valid experiment, we have to randomize which group gets the treatment and which group doesn't. Here, in this experiment, that was not randomized. All of the females received the treatment. We would put people into groups instead of randomizing things. So in order to change that or fix it, I would take my entire 10,000 people and just randomly put them into one of the groups. Okay, so then this third part, the company identifies 10,000 people who are overweight. The subjects are divided into groups according to age. Within each age group, subjects are randomly assigned to receive the new chewing gum or the placebo. After 3 months, a significantly large number of the subjects who received the new chewing gum have lost weight. So this one, yes, we start off by putting each person into an age group. However, then we take each age group and then randomly assign them. So since these subjects are still randomly assigned to the treatment or the control group, we would go ahead and say that this is a pretty valid experiment. We could see that this could be replicated because I could take my 10,000 people again and I could break them into age groups and I could then randomly assign them and then give them the treatment or not. So that one would work just fine. Okay, so now we've looked a little bit about just experimental design. So this is a lot more just kind of thinking process through these of, is this a good experiment? What's a placebo? What's the placebo effect? You've probably heard that before, and that may be something you need to Google, and that is just fine. So now you're going to work on the homework for this one, and just like our last section, I've got it somewhere in here. So it looks something like this, right? Your homework does. Just like last time, my life is chaos right now, so I don't really have time to fill this out. However, these, if you want to do it on here, awesome. If you want to do it in Big Ideas, I will assign these exact same problems in Big Ideas, so you have that way to check your answers and make sure that you're doing things correctly. Okay, so as always, give me a shout whenever you guys get stuck on anything. Thanks, guys.